Okay, Chair, we're now live.
Good evening and welcome to this Cabinet meeting on the 13th of August 2020. So I'd just like to run through a few things this evening. So this virtual meeting is being live streamed as a public meeting. It will also be recorded and the recording subsequently made available via the Council's website. In addition, under the Local Authority Executive Arrangements, Meetings and Access to Information England Regulation 2012, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or recordings is not under the Council's control. Please note that members of the public viewing the meeting via the live stream can only see the person who is speaking. Also, that it takes a second or two for Zoom to switch view so that the person, when they want to speak, should wait until the yellow box around their picture appears. Participants should also ensure that their microphone is muted when they are not speaking to try and prevent any feedback. So I'm going to ask each member to confirm verbally that they are present and that they can see and hear the proceedings. So first off, I can hear and see, and I'm now going to run through the rest of the Cabinet, and if you can just confirm that you can hear and see, I'd be grateful. So let's start with Councillor Barclay.
Good evening, Leader. Yes, I can see and hear clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Good evening, Leader. Yes, I can see and hear the proceedings.
Councillor Boker.
I can see and hear, Leader.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harper-Davies.
Good evening, everyone, Leader. I can see and hear clearly.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mercer.
I can see and I can hear.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. Councillor Pope.
Hello there, I can both see and hear the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Ratway.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I can see and hear the proceedings.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rollins.
Thank you, Leader. I can both see and hear the proceedings.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Smitovich. I think you might need to unmute, Councillor.
Can you see me now? Hear me?
We can hear you. And
yes,
you
I can see and hear you now too.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
Sent me. Am I to say anything on the?
Councillor Seaton, you might wish to mute for a little bit.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, so I'm going to now ask each officer present and also other attendees to confirm verbally that they are present and that they can see and hear the proceedings. So I can start with the Chief Executive, Rob Mitchell.
Good evening. Yes, thank you. I can see and hear clearly.
Simon Jackson, our Section 151 officer.
Thank you, Leader. I can also see and hear clearly.
Thank you very much. Adrian Ward, who's our Monitoring Officer.
Thank you, Leader. I can see and hear.
Excellent. Sylvia Wright, our Head of Leisure and Culture. You are on mute.
I am.
Now you're off. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry. I can see and hear.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Okay, Kevin Stanley, you're our Leisure Centre and Contract Business Manager. Can you see and hear us?
I can see and hear you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Matt, I'm assuming as our all controlling information development manager that you can see and hear us.
Okay, indeed. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Karen Widdowson, who's our Democratic Services Manager. Hopefully you can as well.
Yes, I can see and hear proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. And Laura, keeping control of us all as our Democratic Services Officer. Can you see and hear us?
I can. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Laura. And finally, our three councillors joining us this evening. Councillor Seaton, who's our Chair of Scrutiny Commission. Can you see and hear us?
I can confirm I can see and hear you.
Lovely to see you, Councillor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cllr Hamilton, who's asking one of our questions. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can hear and see you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And then finally, Cllr Baines is a chair of the commercialisation panel relevant to item 6. Good evening, Paul. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear everything.
Thank you very much. Right, I think we have a full house in that case. There are no apologies. So I'm going to move on to item 2, which is disclosure of pecuniary and personal interests. Are there any declarations? I've got the sidebar open, so if you wish to either raise a hand physically or electronically, that's fine. Councillor Harper-Davies, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I am a member of Cllr Valley Gym, so I don't think it's pecuniary because it's a paid membership. I just wanted to declare that. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. I was going to say, looking around this room, you can tell which ones are members of the gyms, and it's certainly not me. So, are there any other declarations? Councillor Barclay, are you a gym member as well? Councillor Barclay, you're on mute.
Yeah, it won't come as a surprise to anybody, but I am, yeah.
I'm not going to say anything.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything, Leader.
Okay, well, look, thank you very much for that. I have to say, I'm not entirely sure 2 out of 10 cabinet members being gym members is necessarily good or bad, but there you go. Thank you very much for that. I don't think there are any other declarations, so which case we will move on to item 3, which is leaders' announcements. This evening, I don't have any announcements to make, so we're going to move straight on to item 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. So I need to ask each cabinet member to confirm verbally that they are content to approve the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record. So I am content. So if I can move on to Councillor Barclay.
Yes, I'm content, Leader.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bailey.
Yes, I am content, Leader.
Thank you. Councillor Boker. You may be on mute, Councillor Boker.
I'm very.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can. Somebody with a
racing car in the background.
It's not mine.
It's not you. I know. Okay. Hopefully we'll. That was a one-off. So, Councillor Harper-Davies.
Yes, I'm content with the minutes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mercer.
He's content, Leader.
Thank you very much. Councillor Poland.
Yes, I'm content with the minutes.
Thank you. Councillor Ratway.
Yes, I'm content with the minutes.
Councillor Rawlings.
Thank you, Leader. I'm quite happy with the minutes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smidovich.
Yes, I'm happy with the minutes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's absolutely everyone. So the minutes are accepted. Item 5, which is questions under Cabinet Procedures 10.7. Councillor Hamilton, I've said good evening, so very good to see you here. You have a question on homes and existing office, warehouse and shop buildings. I'm going to ask Councillor Hamilton if you would like to read out the question again, or are you happy to actually take it as published along with the response as published on our website as well?
I'm happy to take the question as published and the response as published.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hamilton. So I can ask whether you have a supplementary question or wish to make a statement from that has to arise and be relevant to the question or the response.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement with a question relevant to the question I sent in.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hamilton. You have your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you for that. Just to go over what has driven this was, as we're aware, the central government has been introducing relaxation to kind of the planning rules. And you can understand the driver for this. With regards to town centres, they're looking at what can they do to facilitate the evolution of town centres, because clearly they are changing. And one of the ways of looking at that is they're saying, how can we make it easier for developers? But a report that they did publish found that earlier relaxation of rules had led to some abuses. In particular, they found that residential properties that were about the size of garden sheds, some had actually no windows and so on. Now, the question, the answer I received, I thank you for that, because what that did show is that the government has taken account of some of this and has put some safeguarding in place? Because that my question was about, what safeguarding do we have moving forward to get the kind of quality we want? So my question really is about, it's quite clearly part of an evolving scene in planning. It's changing. The government's looking at how do we make it easier for developers to encourage building. But that also means that the role of planning is also changing. And so really what I would like to know is, what do we know that our planning team is doing about looking at its objectives, its processes and so on, to take account of this evolution? How, what's it doing to evolve its role in terms of perhaps refocusing resources to take account of having a greater safeguarding role moving forward in order to ensure that developers deliver properties of a quality that we want here in Charnwood? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The response I'll give is, at the moment, the planning team have reviewed the white paper as published last week. The initial thoughts clearly need to go into a lot more detail. The whole planning industry, I think, is taking stock and trying to actually understand the implications of the potential changes. They are out for consultation, so there's an opportunity for us as an organisation, along with many others around the country, to also respond and put forward their views. We've also been in contact with the Planning Minister, Christopher Pincher, on earlier requests to do with 5-year supply, for instance. But as you quite rightly said, the pandemic has created a huge question as to how development is best taken forward over the coming months. I think I'm right in thinking, and I'm looking at Councillor Bailey here, who hopefully will nod, that the planning team will be making a presentation to councillors to try and explain what the white paper and the implications here specifically for Charnwood, and there will be an opportunity for councillors at that point to ask questions and go into some detail as to what those possible changes are going to be. And Councillor Bailey is nodding his head, so I'm saying the right thing. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity to actually ask more information directly to the planners once they've had the opportunity to actually go through and try and actually assess what potentially this will mean for us and residents and businesses here in Charnwood.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you
very much, Councillor Hamilton. That's very kind of you to come along, and we will now move on to item 6, which is the commercialisation scrutiny panel. Welcome this evening Councillor Baines, who chaired the panel, and I'm shortly going to ask him to present the recommendations from the commercialisation scrutiny panel itself. I know, having joined the commercialisation panel several months ago, the amount of work and detail and investigation that went in, I have to say the last 4 or 5 months sort of feel like a tsunami, that many of the issues that I know were looked at in a huge amount of detail, suddenly we're in a position where all sorts of other bits that probably were not even considered at the time as being possible or achievable. Think about working from home in particular for not only all councillors but also staff, even accessing meetings in this style which were not even legally possible when the commercialisation panel sat. There is obviously a huge amount of work that will now need to be done to update what we're doing as an organisation. I know our new director, Justin Henry, is looking at commercial enterprise strategy, which I'm sure Councillor Baines will be more than hopefully happy to sort of talk to him and sort of discuss with him some of the issues that picked out from the commercialisation scrutiny panel in particular, and how we can actually then enact those within the new landscape that we currently now sit in. There are plenty of additional thoughts that I think probably many of us have thought about in the last 3 or 4 months that are now extraordinarily relevant to how we can develop and progress the commercial side in particular of Charnwood's activities. So look, Councillor Baines, if I can ask you to present the scrutiny panel's recommendations, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask any questions of clarity to you. Simon Jackson, who responded on the report, will then be able to assist with any questions that Cabinet have or any of the discussion points. And then we can move on to general discussion at those points as well. So, Councillor Baines, if you're ready, please go.
Okay, thanks very much, Leader. We came up with 16 recommendations and 4 observations. For brevity, I won't go into the observations. I'll just deal with the recommendations, and I'll read each one out. Panel recommendation 1 was that all assets owned by the council are reviewed immediately and annually thereafter to identify revenue and sale opportunities. Panel recommendation 2 was that the council should consider hiring out other council facilities for corporate events. I should say that some of these recommendations will change in the light of the fact that we're in the midst of the pandemic, so some are less relevant than others, and of course the responsive leadership team takes that into account. So the panel recommendation 2 was that the council should consider hiring out other council facilities for corporate events. Recommendation 3 was that the council develops criteria to maximise revenue opportunities from existing services and then pursues those that provide the best opportunity to generate income. That's really about opportunity cost for doing different things. Recommendation 4 was that the council undertakes pricing analyses, looks at what competitors are charging and cost analyses to see what makes the most margin for its goods and services. Panel recommendation 5 was that council reviews goods and services offered for a fee to residents by other similar councils to assess whether it may offer additional discretionary services for a charge or fee to Charnwood residents. Recommendation 5, that officers review fees and charges in line with budget preparation for this year. Recommendation 7, that the Central Innovation Unit be developed, a think tank to create, monitor, develop, evaluate and control commercialisation projects, and that's part of the new Commercial Development Strategic Directorate. Panel recommendation 8, that a training and development programme is developed and implemented for officers on the council's commercialisation strategy and skills required to embed an entrepreneurial culture and innovative ways of working. In other words, a capacity building programme. Panel recommendation 9, that an exercise is carried out to examine internal controls and eradicate those that are surplus with a view to increasing entrepreneurial activity and reducing bureaucracy. It's the idea behind this is really that that it's not enough to create a think tank to think about what good innovation would be. It's also necessary to look at removing barriers to innovation. Recommendation 10, that non-property related assets and other commercial opportunities considered by the council are scrutinised prior to the decision being taken, and that a monetary value investment level is set above which decisions are assessed and scrutinised in advance of being made. That's really a control recommendation, so that all projects expenditure is assessed with the appropriate scrutiny. Panel recommendation 11, that given the budget pressures identified in the medium-term financial strategy, the council borrow more than 10 million to invest in commercialisation projects, including projects other than commercial property investment. Panel recommendation 12, that the council considers creating a balanced portfolio of commercial properties, whereby a proportion of properties are purchased within the borough's boundaries and aligned with the council's strategic objectives. So mixing the investment so that to offset risk. Panel recommendation 13, that opportunities to improve and increase car parking and car parking enforcement are investigated. Panel recommendation 14, that the ties between the council and Loughborough University and other regional universities and further education colleges, other development agencies such as Midlands Engine, are explored and investigated to see if they can be further strengthened to enable the council to benefit commercially from joint initiatives. Panel recommendation 15, that council-owned garage sites be redeveloped for council-owned affordable housing. Panel recommendation 16, that the council creates a business case for a street cleaning, grounds maintenance company similar to the Streetwise Environmental Limited Company that's run by Rushborough Borough Council. And that completes the 16 recommendations made by the Commercialisation Scrutiny Panel. Back to you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Very succinctly put. So I'm going to ask Cabinet now whether they have any issues or questions of clarity that they wish to ask you. Can I see whether there are any raised hands? I can't see any raised hands. So look, thank you very much, Cllr Baines. As I said, I know just how much work went into the panel and the depth of the discussions, and also the breadth of people that came along to be interrogated and give presentations to the panel to try and actually help your work. Having sat through a couple of the other local authorities I know that came along, I think it was Rushcliffe and I can't remember precisely, I think it might have been Northwest was the other one. You know, really useful to actually try and actually learn lessons from what others are doing. I think being evolutionary sometimes is not necessarily as exciting as being revolutionary, but tends to be have a lot more productive. And I think lessons learned from other organisations are always extraordinarily valuable and well worth doing. So at this point, I'm going to ask if we can actually now have a sort of general discussion on the panel recommendations. We've got Simon Jackson here as our Strategic Director of Corporate Services, who can answer any of the questions, in particular any of the officers' responses to any of the 16 items listed. So if I can ask which Cabinet member in particular would like to ask the first question. I can see Councillor Ratway, you've got your hand up.
It's more a general point than a question, but it's just to be mindful not to discount some of the smaller proposals as well as the larger proposals. I know we're looking to raise quite a large amount of money here, but while we're sat waiting for the quick win, I don't think that we should discount the smaller proposals as well. It just comes across a little bit like some of the ideas just aren't big enough to do, but lots of small wins can make a big win. I think we just need to be mindful of that as well.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'm going to take Councillor Rollins next, and then I'll probably ask Simon to maybe come in at that point. So Councillor Rollins.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I think Councillor Rattray is entirely right. We've got to have absolutely everything on the table here. There's a huge amount of work that's gone into this report, and as I see it, the officers' recommendations are almost small tweaks on what the panel was suggesting, which is probably because officers have had the benefit of time, having seen what the pandemic's done so far. But everything has got to be on the table so that it can be assessed across the board, so we understand exactly what the position will be finance-wise and what we can do to actually commercialise the council. It's something that as a cabinet we're all clearly very keen on, and it's entirely right that the smaller things can't just be discounted because they are smaller projects. We've got to consider absolutely everything because we've not got a lot of time to get on with this now.
Okay, thanks a lot. I haven't got any hands up at the moment, so Simon, do you want to answer a couple of those quick points, but also any of the other points within the responses that have been given?
Yeah, I have to say I don't think as a council or as a set of officers we would want to discount anything, and certainly we wouldn't want to rule anything out. But I think we do need to recognise that as officers there is a fairly limited bandwidth. So, admittedly, if we have 10 lots of £10,000, that adds up to £100,000, and that's well worth having. Though to actually generate those individual £10,000 can take quite a lot of time. And actually, in the answer to question 3, or to panel recommendation 3, about what our criteria are, it really does prioritise those. It does really set out priorities, and it is a lot about putting our efforts in to generate income that can be done at scale and in a reasonable time frame. So if we have the opportunity with a relatively small amount of work to generate relatively small pieces of income, that's fine. I think one of the things that we've experienced as officers, both myself but colleagues and Justin, who has recently arrived with us from Ashfield, is that there is a danger we can spend a lot of time on projects and initiatives that don't necessarily yield results in a short period of time and of a scale. So there is because of our capacity constraints and sometimes our knowledge constraints, but certainly our capacity constraint, it is necessary for us to prioritise.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Are there any other questions that Cabinet wishes to ask? I have to say, for any Cabinet member that was involved in the panel discussions, I absolutely appreciate the amount of work that went in, and I think as Councillor Rawlings set out, there's a huge amount of support, I think, from Cabinet in particular for the commercialisation agenda, and I think Simon's eloquently pointed out our constraints, particularly now with the pandemic. I have to say, trying to identify the capacity for officers, but also trying to identify those things that we can achieve quickly, I think is absolutely essential. We are now being incredibly rigorous about focusing on the savings that we can make, and focus on our responses to the pandemic in particular. So we have 16 recommendations listed from the officers in response to the panel, as is traditional. I'd like to move those 16 on the basis that we have additional work that we know is coming forward through the commercial enterprise strategy. And given the challenges that we have through the pandemic, and some of those being very new opportunities for commercialisation and different ways of working, that certainly I think probably would have been beyond any challenges 6 months ago. There is a huge amount of work that we are going to undertake to try and actually make the significant changes that we need within Charnwood to sort of face the future that we will now put in. So we've got 16 recommendations for the reasons set out on page 12. If I can ask Councillor Barclay to second.
I'd like to second that and thank the panel for its report. I think Cllr Baines has done a huge amount of work there. Some of the things may not be done immediately, but I think they're certainly worth keeping on the radar, and I think it's worth him putting his expertise in with Justin Henry when we go forward. The world has changed dramatically, as you said, Leader, but I'm more than happy to second the recommendations.
Leader, sorry to interrupt. Could I just be clear that you're proposing the officer recommendations that are set out, not the panel recommendations?
Absolutely clear. I said the officer recommendations.
Sorry, thank you.
Yep. So we've got the 16 recommendations for the reasons given on page 12. We've had a proposer and a seconder. So I'm now going to run through everyone to ask for confirmation of their vote. So for or against, likewise, or abstain. So Councillor Morgan, I'm for. Councillor Barclay.
For.
Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Boker.
For.
Councillor Harper-Davies.
For.
Councillor Mercer.
For.
Councillor Poland.
For.
Councillor Ratway.
For.
Councillor Rawlings.
For.
Councillor Smitovich.
For.
Thank you very much. That's everyone in favour. Thank you very much again for Councillor Baines' presentation. And we now move on to item 7, which is the options for 2020 Loughborough events. Now, we also have a Scrutiny Commission report on this item. So I'm going to ask Councillor Seaton to present the Scrutiny Commission report. And then after that point, any points of clarification that Cabinet have, Councillor Seaton, they can ask them at that point. So Councillor Seaton, would you like to present the report of the Scrutiny Commission?
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, Leader, even. I would like to, the Commission welcomes and supports the recommendations set out by the Head of Leisure and Culture. We also acknowledge, the Commission also acknowledges that decisions made were regrettable but necessary. And we also acknowledge that there has been a lot of interest generated in the decisions that have been considered. But in general, I think the the option that we've come to is a considered option, and will satisfy quite a lot of people being able to go back to the gym again. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them, but as ever, every new year, I will say that I will go again. But I know, looking at Facebook and all the media, people are just desperate to go back to gyms, and especially for swimming as well. We need to commend the work done by the Leisure and Culture, because the report was very, very good.
Sorry, Councillor, just very, very briefly, this is the item, this is not the leisure centre item, which is an exempt item. This is actually related to the Panto and the Christmas lights.
Oh, crikey, yes, of course. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
You're about to head off into the exempt item.
No, it's all right. It's because I got to the Leisure and Culture, isn't it? The leisure threw me. We acknowledge, obviously, the hard work that was done by the department there, and the Commission also recognises the difficult decision, but this was the right decision to make for our residents. We also noted that there had been options and exploring using the town hall auditorium for different events, and the cost efficiency of those is being worked out, and it would be good to pursue that so that the Loughborough Town Hall does still get used even now. But the Commission does support the recommendations that have already been put forward. Thank you, Chair. Leader. That's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seaton. Thank you very much for that. I joined the Scrutiny Commission when it debated this item and also the next item, and I know the sentiments you expressed were shared by all of the panel's members. You know, this pandemic's causing all sorts of traditions to be broken. It's a tragedy, but there you go. So are there any points of clarification that anyone wishes to ask Councillor Seaton about the Scrutiny Commission's report as published? I can't see any hands up. So thank you very much, Councillor Seaton. We're now going to move on to the general discussion about the item. We have Sylvia Wright, who's our Head of Leisure and Culture, to assist with any questions in the report. We are going to take the report as read, so we're going to go straight into questions from Cabinet. So can I ask the lead member in particular, this area covers two areas, so Councillor Boker and also Ratway. So can I ask Councillor Boker in particular to start off any points that you wish to raise?
Thank you, Leader. This was obviously a very difficult set of options that we had to look at, and we're in unprecedented times. Nearly all these particular events would draw normally huge crowds, and that is the very thing that COVID-19 guidance dictates that we should not be doing. So we have done the best that we can in the limited situation that we're in to offer what we can in each individual situation. And hopefully we can still enjoy these events, but in a restricted manner. And hopefully by next year, we will all be back to normal times, God willing.
Oops, that was off mute. Councillor Ratway, if there's anything you wish to add.
Nothing further to add on that from what Councillor Baker said so far.
Thank you very much. So on general questions, I mean, it's sort of set out very clearly in the report about how what's been affected and how we're trying to mitigate some of the issues. I know in particular the pantomime, one of my favourites each Christmas. As this Cabinet knows, whenever the pantomime gets mentioned at Cabinet, I think we all have extraordinary fond memories of attending year after year after year. Our particular pantomime Little Wolf production has scored 5-star reviews at the stage every single year now for the last 4 or 5 years. I think without doubt, probably with the finest production in the country. Not seeing the production this year, it's going to be very, very difficult as Christmas. You'll associate pantomimes in particular, but I absolutely appreciate sitting in a half-empty auditorium because of social distancing. The effect is pretty devastating, both for enjoyment, but also financially. And the decision to postpone until next year, at least it means we still get to actually see the pantomime production next year. I know how much work goes into it, and to waste it, just cancel it would be wrong. Postponing it at least gives us an option for all of us to actually enjoy it. At the moment, as Councillor Foker said, hopefully this time next year we're back to a position where life gets to turn back to our normal traditions. Are there any questions in particular anyone wishes to actually raise? Because there's a huge amount in this paper that I know a lot of people in Loughborough and wider area throughout the borough, but way beyond that as well. It's going to affect them over the Christmas period. No? Oh, here we go, Councillor Poland.
Thank you, Leader. I think it's, as has been said, it's regrettable that we are in the situation we're in. I think looking at it, the idea of us being able to proceed with certainly Loughborough Fair in its usual format in a socially distanced way would be impossible. Having said that, I welcome the fact that we're doing something to mark the 799 years of the fair, albeit on a small scale for children. So at least we're doing that, but it is regrettable, as I say, that we can't do our usual offering. I guess we'll just have to do something twice as good next year for the 800 years. So it's more of a comment than a question.
I suspect Sylvia is probably going to be working on it even now. She's probably doubling the amazing plans that we had for next year already. Look, it is. I mean, thank goodness really that it's the 799th year and not the 800th, because I think all of us would have been mortally upset if it had been the 800th that we were talking about this evening rather than the 799th. The Remembrance Sunday as well. I think year after year, all of us comment about the fact that our crowds and our numbers go up for Remembrance Sunday. The parade is just extraordinary. The whole event is enjoyed by so many people across the community. It is great that we're going to live stream the event. It's going to be very, very limited to make sure that it's safe. But we are going to be able to at least hold the service, and everyone who can't be there will be able instead to actually see it through social media. So we are hopefully trying to do whatever we can to at least allow our residents and our communities to be part of some of these events, even if they can't, for the obvious reasons, can't actually participate themselves. But I absolutely agree. The Children's Fair in particular, for instead of the November Fair itself, hopefully will enable a lot of residents to at least get a flavour. Certainly our younger residents get a flavour of the fair itself. So are there any other questions? Otherwise, yes, Councillor Mercer, you're waving your hand.
Thank you, Leader. Sylvia, can I ask a couple of simple questions? The first on Remembrance Day parade. The proposal is that it's a more modest ceremony. How are you actually going to stop people turning up for that? Because I think a lot of people will simply be hardwired to turn up on that day anyway, and may not even look at what publicity we've put out for it. And the second question was on the Christmas lights turn on. Isn't that something that could still be done, but simply be done over video and put on Facebook, the mere ceremony, so we can at least say the light turn on has actually happened? Because unless I've misread it, they're simply going to be switched on at some indeterminate point. Can't we still have a small ceremony?
Thank you for those questions, Councillor Mercer. First of all, on the Remembrance Day, I think a lot of that will be about communications. Because the ceremony is within the Queen's Park, we will have security on the park gates, and we'll be announcing exactly how we're going to do things in advance. We're actually going to storyboard the whole event, so we can make sure we can get a professional online coverage. So we're going to look at it, take it apart bit by bit on what happens when and who's involved. And so everyone who knows they've got a part to play in the day will be engaged. And we are looking at getting representation from the usual people who parade, but the organisations themselves will be putting forward someone to represent them. So it will be very, very stage managed, and we'll be getting a lot of information out in advance. So to avoid that very problem of you saying people turning up on the day. So we have given this an enormous amount of thought, and I think we need to do it well, and we need to do it professionally. And we can't just rely on a few people with a camera at a certain point. We have to stage all the different shots to provide a live streaming of the things that we're going to incorporate. So we will be getting the message out as soon as we've got all of the detail behind everything. In terms of the Christmas light switch on, I think you've made a very good point. And it's something that I'll be talking to the organiser of the Diwali light switch on, that very thing where we could still have a switch on, but actually filmed and then go out live. So, but we won't be having it as an event. We can actually, we might, like we've done in the past, do involve maybe, you know, one of the children from the borough to actually do the light switch on, but not as our normal event. But we can actually, like you say, film that and put that out. But thank you for that suggestion. I think that's something well worth taking up.
Thank you very much for that. As you were talking about that, and Diwali is again a similar sort of event that's going to be affected. But I did sort of speculate that maybe in sort of the spirit of the age, we have a virtual light switch on, so that whoever is chosen can do it from home, and we can live stream the effect within our home and also what's happening. But yeah, it's going to be different. It is going to be different. So are there any other further questions? Okay, look, so thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Sylvia, in particular, and thank you very much, Councillor Seaton, for your comments from the Scrutiny Commission. So I'm going to ask now Councillor Boker if you would like to make a proposal, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Ratway to note the Scrutiny Commission's report and also second.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to propose that we accept recommendations 1 to 6 in the report for the reasons set out 1 to 6. And also I would like to thank Sylvia very much for all the hard work that she's put into reorganising and coming up with ideas for our alternative Christmas and other events. I've done it.
Okay, so I'm happy to second this proposal. Just following on from Councillor Boker's comments about finding alternatives, I'm really pleased that we've been able to find some alternatives that enable us to offer something for these occasions and do them in a safe manner. So yes, I'm happy to second this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillors. So I'm now going to ask each of you whether you could verbally say for or against or abstain for this proposal as proposed and seconded. I'm going to start by being for. Councillor Barclay.
For.
Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Boker.
For.
Councillor Harper-Davies.
For.
Councillor Mercer.
For.
Councillor Poland.
For.
Councillor Ratway.
For.
Councillor Rollings.
4.
And finally, Councillor Smitherich.
4.
Thank you very much. That's everyone in favour. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Sylvia, as well for your answers. So we're now on to item 8, which is an explanation of the exempt information. So I'm going to propose to exclude members of the public from the meeting during the consideration of the following item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. And it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So if I can ask Councillor Barclay to second that proposal.
Happy to second that, Leader.
Thank you very much. And we will now vote. So I vote for. So can I ask Councillor Barclay?
For.
Councillor Bailey?
For.
Councillor Boker?
For.
Councillor Harper-Davies?
For.
Councillor Mercer?
For.
Councillor Poland?
For.
Councillor Ratway?
For.
Councillor Rollings?
4.
Councillor Smitherich?
4.
Thank you very much. That's everyone in favour. So can I ask the Information Development Manager to confirm that the meeting is no longer being live streamed